Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Tayo, for the opportunity you've actually given unto me to talk about this. Okay. So 1 minute. Yeah, I'll share my screen shortly. 1 minute. I'm trying to set up oh 1 minute. Pick it up. What is coming on the screen? Okay, good. Yeah, I believe our screen is on now. So, yeah, thank you, Tayo and TMDC for this opportunity to talk about, web development in our day and age. So, today, basically, we will be looking at the basics of web development, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Of course, there are quite a number of frameworks out there that you can actually use in developing web application. And when we're talking about web application, we're talking about application that you can launch on any browser, be it your mobile browser or your desktop browser. But there's a few dynamics to what we'll be doing today. We are not learning web the way it was learned, years ago. I started web development sometimes in 2002, 2003. The way I learned web development then is not the same way, we'll be doing that today. AI has revolutionized the way we do things, the way we code also is impacted by AI. Of course, AI is as a result of software development. So now you will experience today revolutionary the way we will actually build, within the short time that we'll be spending together. So the way I would like you to think about AI today is as your senior developer friend that's of course won't get tired of you asking its question. So to cut the long story short, so these are what we'll be looking at today. AI mindset, Git foundation, project setup, okay, with AI, HTML by prompts, of course, styling, with CSS, as well as we'll be looking at JavaScript magic with AI. And finally, we look at how to deploy what we have. So here is our journey for today. We're talking about web wizard, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In a nutshell, HTML is the language the browser understands. So you put things together, content on HTML. CSS helps the content to look good, look appealing the way you want it. And JavaScript helps your content to be interactive, basically. So that is what we'll be doing. But today, as I said earlier on, we'll be doing it from AI mindset. Before now, okay, how was web development done? Of course, you will start by learning the different tags, how to put things together, which will take weeks, at times months, at times years for you to be a master of it. But with AI today, that learning curve has actually been shortened, and we will see that today. So, few minutes we will start with GitHub. GitHub, is called in source code management, and I will tell us why we need to actually start with that. Now, GitHub is about is version control, which I believe should be the basics of modern software development. You need to track every change you are making. One, you need to collaborate with other developers. Two, and in the age of AI, your changes are much faster than it used to be. And there might be need for you to reverse. You understand? For you to go back time in line. It is Git that can help you to do this. And we'll see that as we go on. So, what are the tools that we're going to use? Of course, there are quite a number of tools out there that we'll be using. I named this, AI first web development. Now, we will leverage on several tools. Today, we'll just be using only ChatGPT. The reason being that, of course, it is free. Everybody have access to it. Talking about GitHub, Copilot, Cursor, and other ones, you might need subscription, might take you some time to set up. but ChatGPT that you are all used to. That is basically what we'll be using today that is going to help us. And of course, we will go from zero to a deployed app. I want to believe you're going to enjoy this session as we go on. Good. So we are not learning web development the way we learned it. Even 2010, as I said earlier on, the way AI has revolutionized things. So let's look at the differences. Before now, we start by learning the syntax. And of course we memorize them. Oh, what is A? What is P? What is slash? What is all this? That was how we learned it then. But today, AI helps us with the syntax. You just focus on the logic, on the solution you want to deploy. Now, before now, when you run into error, of course, we say Google is your friend. We put in the error code into Google. You have 1001 suggestions from different people. You keep trying. Oh, could it be this? Could it be that? And of course, you consume time while doing that. But today, just copy the error code, give it to any of the AI platform that you use, ChatGPT also, and it will explain to you this is why you are encountering this error. This is what you can do to get this error resolved. What has it helped you to do? It has helped you to shorten your development time. So that is one of the another difference between the way we learned then or we used to code and the way we are coding now. And lastly, before now, we start from scratch. Okay, you create your file, you start with your tags, you put in your CSS, you check it, is it okay? You go back and forth. But today, of course, AI can help you to generate boilerplates and you customize it the way you want it. So that's the difference between the way we used to do it and the way we are doing it now. Then we go. So these are the two kits, I talked about. So we start. What is Git? Git is like a time machine for your code. It tracks every change you make and it helps you to experiment safely as well as collaborate with others. And of course, in this day of AI, Git is even more crucial, because we are generating code faster. Now, Git is just one, and of course, the most popular source code management platform, that helps you to track the changes you are making. And we will see that in action. So, what does it do? Basically, it is being used for version control. I give you simple example. I make a change now. In few minutes time, few hours time, I make another change. And I realize that the latest change I made is not what I wanted. I want to reverse back to the earlier change. With Git, you can just reverse back without you having to remember, oh, this is the line I included. Oh, I need to delete this. I need to remove this. You understand? Git takes that headache away from you. And of course, it helps you to experiment safely. Let me try this out. If it is not working, I reverse back to what it was before. Git help you without you having to remember and deleting, adding quotes. And more importantly, in the era that we are today, I want to believe if you are going into production, you need a lot of people that you will collaborate with. Eventually, when you are specializing, building large system, you might have people working on different aspects of your project. You want to be able to collaborate with them effectively. Git helps you to actually do that. And more importantly, you know, Git helps you to back up your code so that you won't lose it. Of course, developers can tell you several stories around this. Even I myself, as experienced as I might say, I made a bloody mistake, about 2 weeks ago. I was working on a project. I decided to move from one directory to the other, you know, and the directory I was actually trying to move to has the same name as the file. So, and the new directory I was trying to copy, is an empty folder. I don't know how I, you understand how I made that mistake. And it says, should it override? I said, override. And of course, I'm using a MacBook. You know how challenging it might be at times. Lo and behold, After doing that, I realized that I copied an empty directory on my code repository, my local, you understand? And of course, everything was gone. I did everything I could to recover, but the good thing is that I have everything tracked with Git. I just went, of course, I pulled down a new version of it from my GitHub repository and I continued. You understand? So that's the beauty of you starting with this. So that is why I need you to start with Git Foundation. Before you do anything, set up your Git. You understand? And then you go. So every developer use Git today. You understand? So as you are learning, let that be at the back of your mind. So of course, I've talked about why we need Git. So what are the core of Git that we're talking about? Yeah, there are three things that we need to have at the back of our mind, to help us understand this simple, analogy. Think of Git as a sophisticated save system, in a video game that you can actually save the progress you are making and you can go back to the previous saves and even of course create different storyline. So the first thing I need you to know about Git is called repository. That is like your project folder. That is the first thing you need to know. It is the project folder that of course you save everything to. That's the first thing. The second thing about Git is called commits, which it is the snapshots, of your code at a point in time. And of course, we will demonstrate that as we go on. Snapshots of your code, which means a mirror or a replica of your code at any point in time. That is the commit you make. And of course, the other thing that I would like you to know with about Git also is that is branch. For Git branch, you can have you understand parallel version of your code, parallel version of your code. So that is called branch. And of course, there are a few other things that we need to know. Merge. If you are trying to merge two branches together, merge is just like a branch is just like a storyline. And merge helps you to put them, yeah, together. So basically that is it. And a few other things, we have git push, we have git pull. Git push is when you are pushing what you have on your laptop, you are developing on your laptop and you have a server somewhere in the cloud. GitHub, for example, when you push, which means whatever changes you've made on your local laptop, you want it to be replicated, on the remote system or the remote server, that is push. And pull, for example, anywhere you can just go and pull down the source code anywhere. I give a simple example also. I'm working on few projects. So there was a day I was, out of where my local laptop is. And one of the project I was working on, there is a change that I was supposed to make. And of course, I don't have my laptop with me over there. Of course, my development system not set up, everything. And my attention was called to it. I just asked a friend, can I use your laptop briefly? I'm just using the browser. I'm not doing anything. You understand? So I just went to Git, made the changes and pushed. You understand? And immediately the change, took effect, without me having to be with my laptop, without me having to set up my environment and do all that. So that's the beauty of Git. And basically, these are the few commands that we'll be using. Of course, Git version, if you want to know, the version of Git that you are running. Of course, Git config. This enables you to set up your system so that the changes you make will be linked to your identity. There are several people that might be making change, on the code. As I said the other time, Git helps you to collaborate. So when you set this up, anything you push, every other person that you are working with also, we have their name marked against it. And I will show us a few things as we go on. And of course, Git init, that is when you initialize on your system. So to start, the first thing you need to do is to set up a Git account, and I will prefer you to use GitHub. You understand? Of course, GitHub is free. though there is the enterprise version that requires you to make payments, but you can actually use the free version. Just go to Git and sign up. The first thing you need to do is to create a repository that you want to use for your project. Let me see if I can quickly show us that. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Is my screen still visible? Hello, is my screen still visible? 1 minute.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. 1 minute, please. I'm trying to say something. Okay, good. So if you can see my screen now, when you go to your account, just go to repository. You understand? To start with. And this is what we'll be doing today. Just click on new. Now, give it a name that you want to give it. Let's say, okay, Web Wizard. Okay, good. Web Wizard is actually available. Give it a good description, you know, my portfolio
Please,
website.
can you use TMDC Web Wizard, please?
Okay, good.
If we can
Good.
take it from there.
Yeah, TMDC Web Wizard. Good. So, yeah, okay, good. So we have TMDC Web Wizard. Okay, my portfolio website, and we'll give it a name. My portfolio website, TMDC training. Give a good description because people can search for it. Now, you need to know what does visibility means. If I make it public, it means anybody searching, will have access to this. Now, if I make it private, which means I'm the only one that will have access to it and others that I give access to. Now, this is very important. Of course, as you go on in your software development journey, you will understand things we call secrets, things we call parameters that you don't want visible, keys, that's just like password, that you don't want visible to everybody. Of course, the good coding practice implies that you shouldn't have all those saved on your code. But for any reason, if you have any of them and you make your repository public, of course, you have opened up yourself to attack. So that is that. Then, of course, you can add a README file to it. Git ignore. There might be certain files you want to ignore. Again, as you are building, you might have some configuration files where you have some secrets, some code, some access. Let me call them password that you want to share your repository, but you don't want to share that file or those files. So you configure that with git ignore. So you put the directory or the names of the file under git ignore. And of course, there are several software licenses, Apache, and the likes that guides what you're doing. And that is all. Then all you need to do is to do what creates the repository. So the repository is created now. There is nothing in the repository, and it's just telling you, okay, on your local system that you'll be using, okay, what should you do? The first thing you need to do, of course, set up the environment that you will be using in development. And you can do all this. So we will do the same thing. So let me bring out my code editor that we will be using. Can you please confirm that my code editor is visible?
Visual Studio Code.
Correct. So now, when you are developing, and I use websites as an example, you need an editor. Okay, a site editor, or you might be using development, you might be using how do I call it, tools that you need, but you need just a simple editor. Visual Studio Code is free online. Just go online, download it. It's the same thing your notepad will do. Okay, it's the same thing your notepad will do, but just go online, download Visual Studio Code. It is free. And one of the good reasons why developers use this is that, of course, you have command line interface that you can use there, and you have few other things. But for now, we are using it just for our web development. So Going back to our lesson, one of the things I will do is I will go to terminal and let me initialize my directory that we'll be using for this lesson. So we called this TMDC lab. So I'm going to create a directory here and I will call it TMDC lab. Of course, if you're using Mac or Windows, MK, okay. Oh, I spelled wizard wrongly, but okay. Good. So I navigate to that directory. Good. So we set up our development environment. We'll do all that together. So the first thing Git is saying, we should initialize the repository. Okay, we'll go there, we'll do this. Okay, come in here, initialize. Good. The environment has been initialized. Now, the next thing, you can add a README file. We will use that to be tracking what we are doing or giving to give a good description. So the moment you do this, I believe you understand what this means, which means now this is the directory and we'll have a readme file. Okay, we have not added anything now. We will come to that. So here we can create something. Now, if you look at this, there is nothing in this repository. When you refresh, there is nothing there. Now, let's go to our local system and start what we will do. So the first thing is that I will create a README file. This is the directory that we are using. I go there, I said add a new file. I called it what? Just README. There is nothing there. Okay, let me just say uh, hello, this is our README file. Okay, so that is our README file. It's there. So now our environment is set. So what should we do now? This file that we've just created is just local to our system. And of course, if we have it deleted, it is lost permanently. So, but how do we ensure that changes made on this is tracked? According to Git, you can do Git add. That is the first thing you do. Now, just do, okay, Git add. And what? You put the name of the file. So the moment I do readme, okay, then that file is added to our README. Now, in Git, we have local repository and a remote repository. Now, local repository is what we have on our laptop. And of course, you can go back in time and you can save on it. But what we are interested in is ensuring that our repository is replicated on GitHub, which is on the cloud, to ensure that we can access it at any time. So what is the next thing we are going to, you don't need to have anything, memorize anything, you don't need to cram. Git already gave you all this. We've added our file. Then we make the first commit. I told you the other time, what is commit? Is a snapshot of your code at every point in time. So, and that is the first thing we are going to do. Okay, let's make our commit. And again, while making the commit, you put a message there, something descriptive that will enable you to know what you're doing. So we will make this initial commit. So let's say git, okay, git commit minus m means minus message. Let's say, okay, initial commit, and you commit. So this has been committed, but it is still local to you. Now, the next question is, how do I push it, to the remote repository? How will the remote my system know where to push this to at any point in time? So it has given you a command that you create a branch. I talked about branch the other time. Branch is like a storyline, for this. So you do what on this now, you had a storyline that, okay, this is my branch. I've added my storyline. And finally, add your remote repository. Okay, which means with this command, you are telling your local repository that if I am pushing, replicate everything I am doing on my remote server so that if I don't have access to this development environment, I move on to anywhere, travel anywhere, the moment I have access to my Git account, I can pull this and work as if I'm working on my local development environment. So we do this. Okay, Git what? We add the remote repository. And finally, of course, if we look, everything is still the same way you push. So pushing means what is local here and pushing it to my remote server. And let's start with that. The moment I do push main, you realize it's saying this has been pushed to the remote repository. If you go back here and you refresh, you will realize that this is our local file that we created. It is now available on GitHub. And that is all you need to set up your environment. So subsequent changes that we'll be making locally, the moment we push it remotely, we will have them here. And the way it is now, anybody can actually pull this and work because, of course, we make it public. So that is the fundamental of our Git that we've been talking about. So we will move on now in our presentation. Hold on, let me go back to my slide. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Oh, I have my presentation here. Okay, good. So we are done with this. So basically, we've set up our Git repository. Then we move on to the next thing. Now, project setup. Again, as I said earlier on, we are going to set up our project with AI assistance. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. Don't forget, we are building our portfolio. Our portfolio. So to start with, okay, we need to scaffold our project. Okay, what is the directory structure? What are the files that will be needed? As a beginner, let us start together. Let's put this prompt into our chat GPT that creates a basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript project structure for a personal portfolio. Okay, just put this into your website and it will give you something like this. I did the same thing and it came up with something for me, which I will share with us now. 1 minute, please. Okay, let me share with you what it came up with when I supplied that prompt. Okay, 1 minute. Where is my browser? Okay, good. So, okay, good. So when I provided that, okay, this is the response that it gave me. Okay, it told me that, okay, I should set up this way. I should have a folder here. I should have a file about me, projects, contacts. Okay, all this. This is what I was told by ChatGPT. So let us do the same thing quickly. As we said, we're going to build these together. So we call this our folder. Let's create our first file. We call it, okay, index.html. Okay, let's go on with this index.html. Let's create the next file about.html. Okay, project.html, HTML. Then finally, we have contact.html. Again, based on the prompt, don't forget, here is the response the prompt gave us that we should have a folder or a directory, either way you call it, and you have this file in there. So here we create our directory, we call it CSS, and within CSS, we create the file that we need, style.css. Of course, as I said earlier on, this is what will be used in making our page look good. The next thing is JavaScript that will enable us have some interaction with what we are doing. We have a directory called JS, and within that directory, we add, let's call it main.js. Then finally, not finally, sorry, we'll have two other directory. Let's create one for images where we put our various images, and let's create one for our assets. So good. So we've created all these. And if we, for those of us that come outside to command, if we do ls, for example, so these are the folder that we have created, within our project. Now, again, going by what we said earlier on, as you are developing, ensure that you are tracking all the changes that you are making. So let's do the same thing. Let's go to Git. Now I will show something now so that it will make more sense to us. 1 minute. Now, if we look into our Git repository that is remote, let me make this bigger. Okay, good. Now we see that we still have only the thing we had there, the README file earlier on. So with best practice, let's go to our code and just push this to our Git repository. So let's go there. As I said earlier on, what we do is to add. Now, again, instead of adding each of this file, what we can do is actually do git add dots. That means add everything in this directory. So instead of having to do git add main, git add index, we just do git add, then you put this dots. With this, everything here is added. Don't forget, what is the next thing now? We commit this change that we've made. So we do git commit. What is the message? Okay, directory structure or project structure. Okay, we do that project structure. So all these have been committed. Now, of course, though we've committed, it is in our local directory, but it is not yet in the remote directory. You see, we have only our README file in the remote directory. So how are we going to make the changes available on our remote directory? We just come in and push git push. The moment you do git push, that is all you need to do. And all the changes that we've made will be visible in our remote directory. So we have that now. Let's refresh this and see. Okay, sorry. Good. So here is it. So the changes we've made are now in our remote repository. So of course, we are practicing what we're talking about. So we've done that. So let's go to the next thing now. Don't forget, we are using our AI to assist us in the development of our portfolio. So what next? We've created a portfolio. Then, as I said earlier on, we've done all this. We've made the changes. Of course, we've added the changes to our branch and we've committed the changes. So that is already there. Next thing we are now going to is HTML. As I told you earlier on, HTML gives you the structure, of what you have on your website, the content that you have on your web page. Again, we are going to do this with HTML because here is where the magic begins. As I said earlier on, years ago, we start this learning this by learning different tags, and you will see what tag means, as we go on. So let's see how we do this fast. So on your chat GPT also, I'm giving you this prompt. Say, create a basic HTML5 template for a portfolio website with header, hero, about, and project section. And let's look at what that is going to give us. Okay, now I will be doing the same thing here. I'm doing the same thing here, and voila, I will show you what I am having here. Good. So when I did that, this is what I have. Okay. So let's copy this and I will explain that to you as we go on. Let's copy this and have it on our index.html. So, okay, that is it. So this is what has been created for us by ChatGPT prompts. It gave us this. That's okay. We have this, we have this, we have this, and that is it. So now the good thing with web development is how do you actually visualize what you are doing? Now, with HTML, as I said earlier on, your web browser understands this. So if you can just navigate to where this is on your web browser, and have it opened, you will see what you are doing. So let's see, present working directory. Okay. Okay, let me open my browser and let's put this there and we will go through that as we go on. Okay, we have it. So let me share with you what we have. So this is what that HTML content gave us. From there, you can see that you have this, you have all this. It's not looking too good, but you have a content there. So that is the basics. That is where we are starting from. And let me go back a little into what we have here. Okay, 1 minute. I want to minimize this. Good. Okay, so coming to this place, these are various HTML tags and they mean different things. Now, just to give us a little bit of explanation, of course, we have the header, you have the body, and within the body, you have different sections. Now, this header are part of the instruction that you are giving your browser. Now, what you have here, my portfolio here, that is what you see many a times on the tab. If you look at this tab, there is written here, my portfolio. You understand? That is what we have here. And of course, we can change it. Let's call it TMDC website training portfolio. And immediately, that will take effect on our browser. If you are following along, you see that effect is there already. So that is the starting point. And we, in this age, you can see now that you can now make different changes to your HTML, make the change. Let me see if I can do this here. Let me share the screen between the two so that we won't good. Okay, good. So yeah, good. We can have both. Good. So yeah, good. So this is what we've just done now. You know, we come here, we make this change, and of course it's reflecting here. Here we have my portfolio. This is, like the header here, you have my portfolio. You can change it here and say, okay, let's call it instead TMDC training portfolio. And when you come here, immediately it reflects on your browser. So that is the basics. Let's move forward. Now, the next thing we are doing, okay. So we've done this, and of course, the response it gave to us, we've actually put it there. Now, the next thing now is we can now personalize that page. Few things you can do. You can make some changes, change the title, change the text, and of course, you can validate it. One of the things we tried to do earlier on is to ensure that the changes we are making are reflecting on the browser. And there are several other things you will get to know later about accessibility. At times when you visit a page and the image is not loading, but you will see something like a tooltip there, or you will see a name written there. We'll look at that together. Those are accessibility features that enable you, make your website or the app you are developing accessible to people. So that is the first thing that we are doing, which we have actually done. So we have scaled the first audio. The first audio has to do with HTML, the content, basically, and you can tweak that. So next thing, what are we doing? That page that we have created, can we style the page? Can we make it more appealing, to the eye? Don't forget, let's go back to it and see what we had earlier on. Then we can now talk about the next thing we are doing. So this is how it is currently. Okay. So this is what we have, currently. Yeah. Not this. Good. This is what we have currently as a result of this code. So let's make this more appealing. Now let's go back to the prompts that we are going to issue this time around to have this done. So let's issue this prompt together. Create a modern CSS for a portfolio website with a hero section, navigation, responsive design using CSS grid and flexbox. When you put that into your browser, it's going to give you something interesting. And that is what we are going to have sorry, let me go back. Sorry. Okay. Okay, we're done with that. Yeah, we are done with this. We're done with this. Okay, yeah, good. So this is where we are currently. So now from this, what is the response that I was given when I put in this prompt? Let's look at the response together. Okay, so 1 minute. Okay, good. So when I said that, I was given a response. So where is the response that I was given? Let me just copy the response as you are seeing it like this. And I was told to put the response in css.style. So I come in here, I put it in here, I copy, paste it here, and that is it. Of course, we can go through it and explain what each means, but of course, that's not what we are doing today. And again, part of what we are doing is learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the new way, the modern way. You can just copy any of those prompts and go to your chat GPT and say, what does this mean? And of course, it will tell you. So with this change that we've just made now, let's look at how our website is looking. This is the way it was before now. If you refresh this, voila. Okay, so we have this just with two prompts. Okay, this is where we are. The initial content. Okay, let me go back again. Let me take away the CSS that we added. Okay, and refresh. This is what we have before now, before the CSS that we added. And we just adding the CSS that we got from the prompt. Okay, it changed it this way. You understand? So with this now, we are making progress. You can now make changes to your HTML and the way it looks. Okay, let's go there. On our index file, we say, hello, your name. Let's change it. Okay, your name. Okay, hello. Okay, Emmanuel A. Okay, as simple as that. So now the good thing with this is that you know the changes you need to make and you can see it reflect at any point in time. Again, if you look at it, if you look at the footer, you say, oh, your name, all rights reserved. Okay, let's come here and put, okay, oh, TMDC, all rights reserved. Of course, you can put few other things. The moment you make that change, it reflects immediately. So that is the beauty of CSS. Now, let's do a few things together. Now, you might say, oh, this is, this color grain. Maybe I don't like it. I want to change this color grain. Now you can go to your SCSS file and make the changes. But I will show you another way you can do that. What most web developers, what they do. What they do is if you want to see the changes real time, you come to, if you are using Chrome, for example, the same thing is available on Safari. You come to your developer tool. Okay. When you come to your developer tool, you can make some of these changes and see how the changes pan out. Just come here, you click on an item, you see the color code for that text. Oh, I want to change it to something else. It's telling you, okay, this is the color code. I want to change it to something else. Let me change, of course, color has different code. Let me change this DA. Okay, you say I have a change in color. Now, change it to another color. Oh, I want to make it white. I want to make it brown. You can come here and make change to the color. Oh, I want to change the font size. This is where you come here, you make changes to the font size and it reflects here immediately. So that is how we work, we troubleshoot, and we get things done. I want to believe that you are learning as we are progressing. So let's go back to our slide deck. 1 minute, please. Good. Sorry, is my slide still visible? Is my screen rather still visible?
No, yes.
Okay, because I'm seeing something from your side. That was why I thought, hope
From
you
my
are not
side,
the
no.
one sharing. Good.
But no, I'm not seeing your screen. I think it's mine. Let me close that. Can you please?